Hello, I'm Matt Reynolds. I'm the editor of Packaging World Magazine, and I'm with my partners in crime across PMI Media Group. I'm with Liz Cuneo, who's the editor of Healthcare Packaging, Sean Riley, who, among many other hats that he wears, is the editor of OEM Magazine, and Derek Teal, the illustrious chief editor of Pro Food World. So we recognized we're pretty far flung. I'm in Chicago, Derek's around Detroit. Sean is in the Philly area, and Liz, remind me, are you Charlotte?
Charleston.
Charleston. Okay, started with a CH though. So we
Mhm.
can't get together on Fridays like others do and have a beer. So we're just going to have a little safety in numbers discussion on Fridays to kick the tires on what each other's doing, to make sure that we're not too fully siloed, and see what comes out of it. So here in Chicago, it was about 74 this week and quickly
Wow.
dropped to about
Yeah, nice.
34 last night. So the seasons are changing and the pollen is out. And as you might be able to hear from my voice, it's a couple octaves lower. So I'm allergied out. I've got the Flonase rolling, but that got us thinking about some of the packaging and some of the mechanisms that allow these. This is not just a canister. This is something that actually has a physical property, and packaging itself plays a role in the administration of a product. And Liz, you had something interesting that you were telling us about.
Yeah. And so I have to say it's like in the 80s here, so it's been very nice.
Yeah,
But we did
thanks a
have a
lot.
few
Wow.
days in the 50s, so
Ooh,
allergies
the
are
50s.
real. 50s, yeah, that's it's terrible when it's in the 50s. But yeah, so allergies are real. I'll give you that. But yeah, so this week I had a pretty cool interview with a CDMO company called Kindeva. And they were reaching out. Actually, I met someone at PharmaPack and we talked a little bit about their green propellants that they're introducing and have introduced in the UK. So basically, we talked about what that means. So an inhaler, has the little canister and then it has the package or plastic part that we would interact with as consumers. So the propellants, he said, are really the engine behind it. It's what allows the drug to be released from the package into the lungs. And they have some global warming properties traditionally, right? Think of like aerosol, hairspray, and the ozone layer. So issues like that have been ongoing for a long time. So the industry has kind of like shut down on some of those emissions. So they relied on chlorofluorocarbons. I had to write that down, but those were phased out in 1987. We got these new hydrofluorocarbons, but that still contributes to some global emissions. So it's pretty interesting that they've developed a green propellant that has far less negative emissions, but still gets the drug delivered. And so, I asked like, well, is that just why isn't everyone doing it, right? Is it so easy just to make it more green? We would all do it, right? So he was saying that unfortunately, or with a lot of stuff, it requires a full redevelopment of the product. So it's not just a swap it out, it requires a new package, a new manufacturing considerations. But the industry is definitely moving that way, even with these challenges. There's new legislation that's really it's actually not new, but it's coming up, to a deadline that's gonna really shut down some of these emissions. But it was an interesting article that I'm working on writing, an interesting interview because products like that, I don't think about, we weren't talking about the plastic of the inhaler. We're talking about the propellant, the engine
Mhm.
kind of that. So it's interesting how far reaching what we cover is and what, all the different facets of healthcare packaging. So I thought that
Sure.
was pretty neat.
Yeah, and when we think about packaging, I mean, there's two big portions of sustainability, the sustainability coin. One of them is the plastics gyre in the ocean and
Yeah.
pollution and leakage into the environment and microplastics and recycling. And we're often really like focused on that because that's the physical package itself becoming, a refuse in the environment, which is no bueno. We don't want that. But at the same time, there's the entire CO2 and climate change element that really is probably the bigger problem and the more daunting problem than that what is undeniably bad is pollution, but what's even worse is the CO2 and even worse methane
Yeah.
and the contribution to climate change. So you got to think of it in a bigger picture, life cycle type of bigger picture. Now, Sean, I know you had one of your foot soldiers is Casey Flanagan. He was out in the
Mm-hmm.
field this week, suburban Chicago. One of the biggest trends we're seeing for the brand owners and contract packagers alike is that they really need new equipment fast and fast turnover and shorter lead times. Anywhere they can find it, they're willing to pay top dollar for it. But it's really hard to do, especially with a lot of things that are happening with tariffs and supply chains are
Yep.
still a little bit, let's say, less than fully secure. So it's really hard to be able to meet these quick turnarounds. What are brand owners doing to kind of get around that?
Yeah, it used to be speed meant how fast the machine could go, and now it's like speed is how fast I can get the machine into my plant. So what, like you mentioned, with everything that's going on, economic uncertainty, tariff stuff like that, it's slower than ever to get your hands on a machine, and it's not the fault of the machine builders. It's just the state of the industry in the world right now. So kind of this interesting middle ground that Casey went out and took a look at is Frame. It's this rental model that's employed by Frame Industries. And they have this model where, say you need a bottle filler, say you need a case packer, but you don't have 6 to 10 months or a year that you can wait for that to be built. They can have it to you in 2 weeks, or they can have it to you. I think they said with processing equipment in a couple of days, which
Wow.
was surprising to me. Yes. So basically, Casey went and covered this grand opening, and they have 2,000 pieces of equipment and 70 different OEM partners. He likened it to kind of like an auto showroom or whatever, where they just have everything lined up that you can possibly think of that you would need, and it you would think, okay, this isn't going to benefit the OEM, but it also benefits the OEM because they're using their, company XYZ's equipment that they want to get their hands on. They're getting it and renting it while they can up front, while that machine is still being built. So they're going to kind of be familiar with it. They're going to be married to that, using that machinery. And then down the pike, when their machine is done, they can swap out the rental unit and use that. And then that goes back to Frame, and Frame uses it to rent to someone else. And then from a CPG standpoint, it's perfect because you need a case packer now, you can get it within a week or two. So it's really something. It's a cool model. It's not completely brand new. Frame's been doing it for a while, but they did just open this huge new showroom with the idea that they can have everything in one place, so you can come in and see that, oh, they have these offerings, oh, they have these offerings, and sort of solve your problem from soup to nuts. So I thought that was a neat little story.
Is it just packaging or is it processing also?
No, there's processing as well, yeah, and that's what surprised me, that it was quicker from what they said, to get processing equipment up and out of the plant and running in their facilities. That was the one where they said it would be less than a week in some cases.
Does that hold true with you, Derek, or with your side of the processing coin? Or
So, I mean, there are a few different models that we've been seeing companies go through. There's a company called Formic that they lease equipment, and it's that model again, like Sean was saying, that it's about speed, but there's also that aspect of having somebody that in house that can work on the equipment. That say something breaks, there's not necessarily that expertise anymore with
Right.
the labor issues that people have been having. So that's why that lease model sort of works for other companies, because they don't have to worry about that anymore. They don't have to worry about having somebody in-house. They can just go out and say, hey, call up whoever they're leasing that equipment from and say, hey, we're having a problem with this. Send somebody out here. I think when I visited Formic last summer, somebody was saying that they had a problem because there was like one technician in like this whole area around Chicago that worked on this one piece of equipment and or one type of equipment. And, you're talking about months in terms of lead time to get that person out there. And if you are measuring profit in terms of uptime, like, okay, how much money am I losing because I can't get this guy in my shop because, I don't have an electrical engineer on staff anymore, which is basically what's required. Uh, not required, but it's sort of that level of expertise that's necessary to have somebody that can work on this type of equipment because it's getting more and more sophisticated. And I think Matt, like you saw that at Top to Top, which I didn't go to this past, month, but uh, there's kind of a push. I don't want to say a push, but there's talk about people wanting equipment, about manufacturers wanting equipment that isn't quite as sophisticated anymore. They want less electronic, more mechanical, just because it is easier to work on, that you don't need that super specialized individual that can come in and work on that equipment. You can have somebody that just that you can have somebody that has that tribal knowledge already that can more easily be passed on to somebody in-house as opposed to getting somebody that has, needs a master's degree, like I said, in electrical engineering or some other form of engineering to come on out and work on a piece of equipment. And I've also heard that because of that, if you use that more mechanical type of product, a type of equipment, that even though it might break more often, you can actually keep it running. If you have somebody on staff that can keep it running, you maintain uptime because it takes so long to get somebody out to fix a piece of equipment that's more electronic than mechanical. And I thought that was interesting, hearing, and I've heard other people, not just, at Top to Top last year or other forums last year, but throughout uh, the past few. I know, like Liz is talking about something that happened directly. Sean's talking about something that happened with Casey more recently. But this is sort of an ongoing thing that I've been hearing with Pro Food World that, hey, it's getting really too complicated. And if I have something that's simpler, that I can have somebody in my shop fix it, and I don't have to wait weeks or however long to get somebody in to fix it, that I'm actually making money, you know, with that uptime because I have somebody on staff that can do it. And as we keep talking about that tribal knowledge, just sort of leaving a plant, it's I don't know. It's sort of a catch-22, I guess, because that tribal knowledge is leaving, but it's something that can be passed on if you have the right process in place or the right steps to try to maintain that internal education program. Whereas if you have that electronic equipment, that yeah, you might be able to have higher processing speeds, but once it breaks,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
you might be out for longer, and it's just really a
What's
I don't
funny,
know.
Derek, is I was talking about this last night with my in-laws about appliances in the house that are becoming too much like computers and too many things that go wrong. They have nothing to do with, like the fridge. It's like it still keeps everything cold, but there's some sort of blown,
Hmm.
sensor or fuse or it happened with our dryer. It needed like a new switchboard or something that I don't even know. And it was like $300. I'm like, how much is a new dryer? Like this, why is it a computer that,
Yeah.
it should just be a dryer? So we've made a like note to ourselves, like next appliances we buy, we're going to like the most basic that we can maybe troubleshoot, right? Like what you're saying, if I can fix it in house, I can avoid that, getting that engineer out here to fix it.
Well, you're preaching
We've
to the
been
choir
hearing,
here, like as somebody in Detroit with cars,
I was gonna
Yeah.
say cars is what I've been thinking
Cars.
this whole time you were talking.
yeah, like my first few cars were like a 75, 78, 84, all vehicles that something goes wrong, I'm underneath it, I'm tearing it apart. Now, and I'm not ashamed to say, okay, I'm kind of ashamed to say it, that I drive a Prius.
Oof.
And yeah, if that thing goes, like
Just throw your hands
Oh,
up.
yeah. Who knows?
it just, yeah, exactly. Throw my, like, okay, call somebody, on the phone because there's no way I'm fixing that.
yeah. Well, there is a bridge. Uh, we've gone this far without saying two little letters that are creeping into our everyday lives,
Yeah.
and that's AI. I heard recently amongst there's certain OEMs who are creating a bridge to that tribal knowledge, not by passing it from person to person, but by actually depositing it in a large language model.
Mhm.
I know of a machine builder who's actually got they're following that one of their elder statesmen, mechanical guys
Yep.
around with basically videotaping and audio recording everything they're doing, and that's being stored digitally as part of a gated AI. So there's going to be an AI version of this guy when he retires because there's not another human version of him that's going to be able to pick that up. Also, you're talking about the requirement to have a PhD in electrical engineering to work on some of these things. You know what has the entire body of human knowledge within it? AI. So,
Yeah.
it could read all these, we hear about physical AI frequently. It basically knows the laws of physics, or it knows, electromagnetics, or whatever it needs to, whatever domain you give it. AI has been changing a lot, and I'm surprised we got this far without mentioning AI as that bridge. But
Mhm.
Derek, you also saw some news break with regards to AI over this week, did you not?
I did, yeah. Coke's CEO announced that he's going to be stepping down, James Quincy, and it's because he doesn't feel that he's qualified to lead the company into the AI era.
Wow.
Yep, and he's the second one, not in the food and beverage, but Walmart also had a CEO step down as well, a top executive, I should say. I don't know if it's a CEO or not, but a top exec stepped down because of that same reason that they don't feel they're capable of taking the company into this AI future, and so they think somebody else can better do it, which is, interesting. It's funny because AI is such a broad term. I think
Yeah.
it's an undefined term. I read a study probably on Wednesday or earlier this week that just said something about how they equated humanoid robots with AI, and as part of and I was thinking, that's not really, I don't think a humanoid robot is AI. It might have AI aspects, but
It's
I
a
think it's
vessel for AI. It's a vessel for
Yeah.
AI, but it's yeah.
Yeah. Physical
exactly,
form for AI.
right. But I've been at shows where I've had to sit down, or I have sat down and talked with OEMs because they're so confused as to what AI actually is.
Hmm.
And it's because it's gotten anything that is viewed as a smart or machine learning so often gets confused with AI. It's not, I mean, machine learning's been around for decades. It's not anything new, but because you're feeding so much information. I mean, not saying it's not part, it can't be part of AI, but it's not in and of itself AI. And it's because it's gotten this AI has become this huge generic, even marketing term that if somebody in marketing sees, oh, well, this is AI, we're just going to throw it out there as a buzzword, or I should say it's become a buzzword, and uh, people don't know the difference. So if you have an executive, regardless of if it's on the packaging line or in the processing line, saying we want to incorporate AI, and they pass it on to their uh, supervisors and plant managers, who are then like, okay, what does that mean? They go to the OEMs and or they look up, uh, do a quick Google search using AI, of course, and it'll spit out that this company, this company, this company, this machine manufacturer, they have, AI incorporated into it. But is it truly AI, or is it just a
Hmm.
marketing term that company is using? And so it's just created a bunch of confusion. And I think that's part of the reason why, some execs are stepping down because they don't understand it. They don't know what's going on. It's because it's this term has just become, you know, just so widespread with no clear definition, or they can't clearly define it, that they're just sort of, I've got my money. I'm
I
just going
feel
to
like
walk away from it.
the definition is in its use case. It's like where the rubber meets the road. And there is one use case that I sat in a webinar earlier this week. You guys have all heard of RFID. Liz, I know you have
Uh-huh.
in healthcare, RFID, NFC. Basically, I've spent a lot of ink writing about Sunrise 2027 and the QR codes and 2D barcodes and so on. Those are pretty, there's limitations with how much information you can pack in based on resolution and the size of a label and what you can scan. They're good directors. You can scan it and it directs you to a website or something like that, but it's not a data generator. What are RFID and subset NFC. But it's been impossible. Well, it's been impractical, let's say, until recently, to really scale RFID, given the amount of noise out there. Because you're talking about single unit sizes, like a batch size of one, we hear frequently. But then you've got products that might be in the millions or billions. That creates a lot of noise, a lot of data noise, and we just didn't have the mechanisms to be able to arrange that. And now AI is changing that. So it's giving RFID and NFC kind of a second life. And AI is able to synchronize these vast amounts, oceans of data that we haven't been able to do. And it's also able to be a little bit flexible, a little nimble. It doesn't need as precise, as clean of data as we've needed previously because it's able to make some extrapolations and which is scary when AI is making extrapolations like that without our permission. But anyway, so one of the interesting things I saw this week was AI's potential to unlock what RFID and NFC have always had in potential. So they've had this potential capability. We just haven't had the ability to use the data it generates. AI says now it has. We're probably going over time. Is there anything I'm missing? Have you guys seen anything else you want to bring up this week?
Nope.
No, I think
No,
you
Doesn't
hit it.
sound like. All right.
yeah,
Well, it sounds like the kids are home for a half day for Liz, so I know she's got her hands full today. And everybody else, it is getting towards happy hour, so go out, have a beer, have a good weekend, watch some basketball, and we'll be back here in another week for another Safety in Numbers little get together amongst the editors of PMMI Media Group. Thanks, everybody.
great.
Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers.